Hey there guys, welcome back. Hope you're all doing well. It's Chetan here from DoubleCube and welcome back to a brand new tutorial. This is going to be in After Effects, where I'm going to teach you guys how to create a super cool dramatic intro title sequence. So the inspiration for this tutorial was actually from a promo video from a team called as Jollybrush. So they make social media branding, jersey designs, logos and stuff. So I think they released their promo of their roster. And I saw the title sequence and it is epic. It was so cool. I felt I had to recreate it and teach you guys how they did it. So I'm gonna play recreate their version, and then after that I'm gonna play my version, and then we can get started with the tutorial. Okay guys, so I think that was pretty cool. So let's get started. So I'm gonna go to File and click on New Project. Or actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep my original project right over here just in case I wanna use it as a reference. And I'm gonna go ahead and create a new composition. So 1920 by 1080, 60 frames per second. Duration is 5 seconds long. And we go ahead and let's go call this main. Let's go call this animation. All right, there we go. So let's start off with our text. So the text is the important thing that we want. So I have two texts here. One is DoubleCube and one is designs. Let's go ahead and get the text done. So I'm gonna go right click and choose new text, and I'm gonna call this After Effects tutorial. So let's go type in After Effects, and go ahead and move this over to the center. Now I want the anchor point of this to be in the center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Control, come over here to the pan behind tool and just double click, and that's going to center this up for us. And I'm also going to come here to the align and align this horizontally and vertically. Now if you can't see any of these panels which I end up using, you can go to window and just check on whichever this is. So I'm choosing align, so align is selected. Now the font, I'm going to be using a different font from this one. If you guys like this font, let me just show you what's it called. It is called Refuel. So Refuel I think has a bunch of 10 to 15 fonts of different fonts. So you guys can download that. I'll try to put a link in the description if I find it. Anyway, so in animation, I'm going to come over here and double click on After Effects, and I'm going to choose a font called as Hemihead. I'm going to go and hold on Control, double click, and let's go align this again, and boom. Now this is pretty big, so I'm going to probably reduce this to 135 and align this again in the center. Let's make a copy by pressing Ctrl D on the keyboard, and we are going to call this After Effects tutorial. Okay, and then let's double click and name this to tutorial, tutorial. Okay, and let's hide the After Effects layer for now. And here again we need to hold on Control, double click on the pan behind tool. That's going to center this, go to align, and boom, there we go. Now let's click on After Effects, and we can move this up. So I'm holding down Shift and the up arrow key, so I'm going to move this 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And the tutorial is also going to come down 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this time I'm going to go ahead and make tutorial pretty big, like pretty big. Let's see, let's center this again. Hold on Control, double click on the pan behind tool, and align this horizontally. Should we make it a little bit more bigger? I think this is good enough, maybe a little bit more. Let's set this to 240. Yeah, I think 240 is a good amount. Okay, and let's align this in the center. Let's bring this down a teeny tiny bit. Oops, not that, the tutorial. Let's bring this layer down, and that's looking good, I guess. Okay, so now let's get into the animation part. So the first part, I'm going to animate the word After Effects. So let me just hide the tutorial layer for now by clicking on this eyeball button, and let's create some room here. Now this is going to be 15 seconds, the 15 frames, the animation that's going to be coming from the bottom to top. Okay, so I'm going to go to the 15th frame. So to do that, I'm going to hold down Shift and press page down, which is going to jump me to 10 keyframes. I'm going to page down 5 times again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now as you can see, the time indicator is on the 15th frame. I'm going to click on the word After Effects, press P on my keyboard to get the position properties. I'm going to click here to create a keyframe. Great. Okay, and then I'm going to come back to my first keyframe, and then I'm just going to go move the y-axis a little bit down. So, you know, it looks kind of like this. And if I play this, you see, we're going to have something like that. Okay, that's good. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create a box. So let's go and select the rectangle tool, and let's just create a rectangle, you know, that covers the entire text like so. Okay, it's covering the entire text. Now we're going to be using something called as the matte, which is basically a mask to hide your layers. So if I come over here to toggle switches and modes, you can see I get this version, which is the mode and the track matte. So I'm going to go and select After Effects, and I'm going to set the track matte to alpha matte. Okay. Oh, actually, we're going to set it to alpha inverted matte. Okay. So now what actually happens is when I play, you see, it reviews. We're going to give a little bit of more dynamic smoothness to this. So I'm going to press P on my keyboard, or let's press U to show all the keyframes. And I'm going to select these 2 keyframes. Okay. And I'm going to press F9 on the keyboard to make it easy ease. But since I'm actually recording, I'm going to right click, go to keyframe assistant and choose easy ease. And now I'm going to go to the graph editor. So you can click here, or you can press Shift F3, which is going to take you to the graph editor. And I'm going to press plus on my keyboard to just zoom in over here. Now we want the animation to be fast and then slow down in the end. So I'm going to click here, and that's going to give me these tangents. I'm going to select this one and move this over to the left. So what that happens is the animation goes very fast and then slows down. So let's have a look. Okay, we probably can't see anything, but if I go back to my original composition and see what kind of animation I had, you see I had the same kind of an animation. So to make it even more better, let me just zoom in a little bit more over here, and we can move this one a little bit inside. So now let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks better. That looks way better. Okay. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is let's turn on the tutorial layer. And the tutorial layer is going to appear after this is over. Now we're going to make a couple of copies to this. So we're going to press Ctrl D to duplicate that. And I'm going to go call this tutorial balls. Okay, don't laugh, but yes, that's what I'm going to call it. Okay, so I'm going to go to my effects and presets, and I'm going to call, I'm going to select a effect called as CC ball action. You guys can stop laughing if you actually are. Anyways, and what that's going to do is it's going to create my text into balls. And there are a lot of settings over here. You can see you can click on the scatter, which you can create a cool scatter animation if you want, but we're going to be using scatter for that. This is going to be the rotation of the entire text, twist angle, a lot of crazy options. But for now, I'm just going to set the grid spacing to 1. So it's going to make these balls quite small, and also reduce down the ball size of this to 50. So we have this LED kind of a look, which is really nice. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the time, let's say around 8 frames where the text is almost revealed but not completely revealed. And I'm going to press T on my keyboard to get the opacity for this, and I'm going to set this to 0 and just click to create a keyframe. Now I'm going to make 8 keyframes every 2 frames forward. So that's going to be a total of 16 frames. So I'm going to press page down twice, and let's go and set this to a value of 50. And let's go press page down twice. We can reduce this down to 35. Press page down twice. Let's set it to 80. Press page down twice. Probably set this to 65. Just random numbers. Page down. Let's set it to 90. Page down again, let's set it to a low number, let's say like 40. And so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then last keyframe, we're gonna go and set this to 100. Okay, so now let's see how this animation looks. Yeah, you see we have this very quick and fast glitch animation. So after we do that, we're going to add in a little bit of outlining to this. So I'm going to select the layer that we have over here, and I'm going to right click and choose create shapes from text. And what that's going to do is that's going to hide my original layer, and I end up getting another layer which is right over here. I'm going to put this right at the bottom. So this is a shape layer. As you can see, there's a star, and that's a shape layer. So I'm going to press enter and just going to name this tutorial stroke. And as you can see over here, we have a stroke and a fill. Now if I set the fill to 0, you see the fill is gone and I can't see anything because the stroke is also set to 0. So I'm going to go and set the stroke to a solid color, and it's going to be white. So now as you can see, we can see some amount of stroke, and I think 2 pixels of stroke is fine. Let's see how 1 pixel works. I think let's stick with 2 pixels. It's really good. Okay, so we're going to come here to the 8-second mark, and with my tutorial stroke layer selected, I'm going to press this arrow mark, which is going to bring that down, and I'm going to go here to the add option, and I'm going to choose something called as trim path. Now what trim path does is it's going to go ahead and treat each individual shape layer, as you can see over here, into a separate path and help me to outline that path. So let me just show you what's going to happen. So I'm going to go with my trim paths over here, and as you can see, we have 3 properties: start and an offset, and I'm going to go ahead and just animate the start. So if I go and set this to complete 100, you see there's nothing there, and if I start decreasing this, you can see it kind of gives me this write on text effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the start, set a keyframe to 0. I'm going to come here to the 20-second frame where we finished our glitch animation, and I'm going to set this to 100. Let's just see how that looks. So I'm going to hide the balls layer for now so we can see the stroke layer. Okay, so it's basically writing off, but we want it to actually write on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the end of this to 0. So now there's nothing, and now there we go. We have this cool write on text effect. Now let's give some good animation to this. So I'm going to right click and choose keyframe assistant and choose easy ease. Let's go here to the graph editor and let's give the same animation to this. So I'm going to select this one and just move this over completely to the right side and move this a little bit towards the left. I'm sorry, that was left side, not right side. Anyways, so let's see how this looks. And there we go. You can obviously go ahead and increase the spacing of this as to how fast you want the animation to happen. So probably I'm going to go and set this to 20 frames. So there we go. So now let's see how that looks. Okay, I think that's much better. And also we want to do is we want to give the same opacity effect, the transition, to the stroke layer as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to the 8-second mark, where 8 frame mark, my bad, I keep saying 8-second, 8 frame mark, where we set up the animation. I'm just going to go and press Ctrl C on this opacity. Come over here to the stroke and just press Ctrl V. What that's going to do, if I press U on my keyboard, you see it applied the same opacity keyframes to the stroke layer as well. I'm going to turn on the balls layer and let's see how this looks right now. Okay, let's play this once again. Okay, that's looking really good. So as you can see, there's a lot of, I can't actually see the balls and the lines separately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the balls layer, double click to highlight the text, come here to the color, and I'm going to change it to C93854 and click on OK. So now we can see the white and we can see the balls layer separately, which is pretty good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go and create the final reveal of the text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go select the balls layer, press Ctrl D to make a copy, or actually let's delete that. We can use the tutorial 2 copy that we made. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place it on top of everything, so it covers the entire thing. And I'm just going to go call this tutorial white. I don't know, just whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to go here to the effects and presets and choose a preset called as linear wipe. It's a transition, so you don't want to select under the animation presets. You want to choose under the transition linear wipe and double click on that. And make sure you have your layer selected. It's automatically going to apply that on that. And what this is going to do is animate this pretty much, right? This is pretty much it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the wipe angle of this to -90. So that's going to animate from the left side to the right side, like so. Okay, and I'm going to change the angle of this as well to a little bit more so that it kind of inclines to the curving of the text. So I'm going to just use my arrow keys to get a good number. So yeah, I think 77 degrees is perfect. I don't want any feather on this, so I'm just going to keep it like so. And let's see where the animation ends. So the animation ends over here. So around 30 frames, I'm going to go and set the transition completion to 100. And then what I'm going to do is let's zoom back over here. Let's go 20 frames forward. So press 2 times by holding down Shift and page down. And I'm going to set the transition completion to 0. And let's see how this looks. Okay, there we go. Now let's go to the graph editor by selecting the keyframes and pressing right click keyframe assistant and choose easy ease and go to the graph editor. Now you can make the animation slow and fast or fast and slow, however you want, but I'm going to stick to my default one where it's going to start fast and then end down pretty slow. So you know, we can do that. All right, so let's check it out. Okay, that was pretty fast. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and move this to, let's say, 30 frames, and let's see if that's going to slow down the animation. Okay, it's still too fast. So what actually is happening is, let me come here to my last keyframe, which is on the 1 second, and the transition completion, I'm just going to go and start increasing it till it covers up. So we don't want to go to 0 completely, just a little bit over there, and I think 21. So let's see how that looks at 21. And yes, now it looks much more slower and gradual. We can also come here to the first frame and just reduce down the transition completion over here, so it kind of covers the entire thing. So I think 74 is good for me. Let's just play this again, and there we go. That looks much better. Okay, so now the color for After Effects is actually going to be the same color as we chose. So let me just paste that, and I think I'm gonna go for a blue color hue. I don't want the same pink purple thing. So let's see what looks good. I think this looks really good. So I'm going to copy this, Control C, come here to the CC tutorial balls and paste the same thing. And yeah, now we have a bluer version. Let's just play it. Awesome. Okay, so now that the animation is done, it's time to add a little bit of finishing touches to this. Okay, so let's go and go to our project settings and click on the animation and just throw this into a new pre-composition. And we can go ahead and call this right over here in the project panel as the final render. Okay, so we have our animation over here, and it's looking really good. Now let's add a background. So right click, new solid, and let's call this BG for background, and just put it any color, put it below the animation pre-comp. Go to effects and presets and choose gradient ramp. So gradient ramp, double click on that, and we're gonna get something that looks like this. The start color is going to be, let's see, it's going to be a very bright or dark, let's see, okay. And the end color is going to be complete black. And I'm going to set the ramp shape to radial ramp and probably choose the color to pink. So we kind of inverted the colors, or purple, or let's stick to blue actually, something like that. And I'm going to go click on this circle that we have, which is basically my start position of the ramp. And I'm going to move it, make sure you have it selected, and I'm going to move this up. And for the end ramp, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this and push it over to the right side like so. And we can bring this closer in, push this quite high. And now let's fit this crease to screen by pressing Shift and the backslash. And that's looking pretty good. Okay, so now let's go and add in a little bit of zoom effect. So I'm going to select the animation comp. I'm going to press S on my keyboard, which is going to be my scale tool. And I'm going to go and set this to 120 and just click on the stopwatch. And I'm going to come here to the 5 second mark, that's correct, and set this to 0. So now we have an animation for the scale. And I'm going to right click, keyframe assistant, and choose easy ease. Now let's just see how that looks. I'm going to set this to quarter just for, you know, preview purpose. Okay. And now again, to give it a little bit more dramatic feel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go select the scale, go here to the graph editor, and make this, you know, like zoom in really fast, and then it kind of slows down in the end. So let's check that out. We can set it to half for now. Or we can actually go and set this all the way to the end, and yeah, it's going to start with a cool little jerk and then fades down slowly. Now I'm going to be using a plugin called as Optical Flares to enhance this, but you can use the same thing called lens flare here if you don't have optical flare, so you can just use lens flare. So I'm going to create a new solid by pressing Ctrl Y, call this Optical Flares, and we're going to go and choose Optical Flares and just double click on that. And I'm going to go here to the options, and I'm going to choose a nice preset. So probably go to motion graphics, Let's choose this one, the cool flare, and I'm just going to click on OK. Go to the blending mode and set this to screen, and I'm going to go and just place this right here on the top like so. And then I'm going to come here to the 1 second, the first frame, create a keyframe for the position X and Y. Let's zoom out, and you can go to the last frame and then just select this, hold down shift, and then you can just move it over to the right side. So let's see how that looks. Okay, that looks pretty fine. So all I got to do is just select this, right click keyframe assistant and choose easy ease, and probably reduce down the brightness of this to 70. It's kind of too harsh, and probably 60 also will do. I think that's good enough. Okay, so the last thing you can do is add in a couple of particles. So I'm gonna press Ctrl Alt Y, create a new solid. Ctrl Y, create a new solid, call this particles. Okay, and then just delete this adjustment layer. I'm gonna go here and choose CC particle world. So for those of you who have trapcode particular, you can use that. But I'm gonna choose CC particular world over here, and that's gonna give me this set of crazy particles. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go here to the grids and guides, uncheck all of this because I don't want to see any of that. Okay, and all this, and let's go here to the producer, and the radius X, we're gonna make that big, radius Y, gonna make that big, and radius Z, we're gonna extend that also pretty big. So let's see how this looks, and you see we have these particles flying around here and there. Okay, so the birth rate, I'm gonna set that to 1 to reduce the number of particles. Longevity, we can keep it to 1 second. Physics, we want it to be twirly. So if I play this, you see we have this kind of twirly crazy animation. So the velocity, I'm going to set this to 0.1 just to slow down everything. Gravity will be 0. You can actually go to the birth rate and set this to 0.3 because I just want a very few particles. And then let's go here to the particle. Let's go to particle type. Let's choose this to faded sphere. Okay, and the birth color, let's set that to white, and the death color, let's set it to blue, like a light blue. I don't know. Let's set both of this to blue. Okay, and the birth size, we're gonna set that to 0.1, and the death size also is gonna be 0.1. Size variation, 100%. Opacity, max opacity 100%. So now let's turn back our animation layer, and probably can increase the birth rate of this to 0.5. Now let's just play and see. All right, we can see some slight animations of these balls going around, which is pretty fine. We are also going to go and take this particles layer and put it below the animation pre-comp because we want these particles to be behind everything that's happening over here. Okay, that's good. Now the last thing is motion blur. Now I'm going to use a plugin called as Real Smart Motion Blur. So if you don't have that, what you can do is you can go into every layer of yours and make sure you click on this icon, which is the motion blur. So what that does is automatically applies the motion blur, and once you do that, you want to click here. So you want to select all this, and you can click here, which is going to enable motion blur for all the layers to which motion blur is set. Come here to the main, the final render comp, and click on motion blur, and just click on motion blur as well. But since I'm using a plugin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Ctrl Alt Y to create an adjustment layer. I'm going to call this motion blur. Okay, and I'm going to come here and choose RSMB. RSMB, and double click it, and I'm going to set the blur amount of this to 1 and the motion sensitivity to 100. Okay, one last thing what we can do is we can go and add in a glow. So let's just type in glow, and you can add it to these particles. So it just gives a little bit amount of glow to this. So that's pretty much it on how to create this cool looking dramatic title intro animation completely in After Effects. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to mention that in the comment sections down below. Drop a like, subscribe to my channel for more content, and I'll see you guys in my next video. So till then, take care and bye bye.